My name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, March the 21st, and it is turning out to be a reasonably sunny day. When I first came into the room this morning and opened the drapes, I was like, it was gray, it was overcast, this room was not fun to be in, and I actually had a moment where I was like, oh, I might not be able to film in here today, but post-lunch, the sun has come out, the room has warmed up, and we're filming in my favorite location. And quite frankly, some of your favorite locations. For some of you, it's your favorite filming location as well. Wow, that was not easy to get out, so that's going to tell you apparently words are going to be challenging for me today. just go with it. If you are new to my channel, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me, and I hope that you enjoy what you see. This is primarily a channel about cross-stitching, or the stitching related things that I have accomplished over the course of the most recent week. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed and those of you who watch my videos regularly. I truly do appreciate the fact that you are spending some time and are hopefully enjoying what you see. As always, if you have any comments, questions, topics you'd like to address, always happy to have that in the comments below, just because it means that I feel like we actually are having a little bit of a conversation. And with that, I'm going to address a couple of the comments that came in last week. At this point, there's a couple of comments that came in last week that I'm going to talk about a little bit later when we get to a couple of other things. But first of all, Jean, thank you so much for your comment about my hair last week. Yes, I thought I was having a pretty good hair week. Full confession though, that was hairdresser hair. I had gone to the hairdresser the day before, so it was with the help of a professional that I achieved that. This week is Judy hair. So probably last week was a little bit better because the professional had had her way with my hair, but this week I'm having to own up to this is me doing my own hair. But thank you so much, yes, because I agree. I thought I had a pretty good hair week last week too. And it is funny when you go back and you look at the screen captures, as you can watch. I feel like every week I've had a different hairstyle based on the screen capture. Anyway, and as well, Happy Handcraft, thank you for your comment, and I really love your word. So last week she made the comment that I was being very intentional about my spending, which is absolutely true. Again, I thought it was a really good word. I'm trying to stay within a budget, trying to take anything that I'm contemplating in the context of the stash that I have. So I really did like that word. So thank you, Happy Handcraft. I like that, intentional. Yes, I'm trying to be intentional about my spending. And with that, we're going to jump right into, not the stitching, but probably some of you have a question right off the get-go. Because if I have been successful, so of course I'm recording this before everything gets uploaded and everything else, but if I've been successful, the picture that came up with this particular video is one that you probably thought you would never see in your lifetime. So here we go. So this is the chart that you will have seen, again, if I've done it correctly, as part of the screen grab. So there I am. So this is a chart by Tiny Modernist called Your Own Kind of Beautiful. So I'm going to just clarify a couple of things right off the get-go. So I'm trying to hold it very carefully because it is still in its plastic wrap. So this chart has been loaned to me by Traditional Stitches, which is a local needlework shop to me. So apparently most of the staff at Traditional Stitches have watched my video, and apparently I might have mentioned a time or two that with respect to the Needlework Expo that I was hoping that there were going to be a lot of charts that had chickens on them, because they don't necessarily appeal to me. So apparently when this came out and it came into the store, apparently for quite a few of them, all they could do was think about me, which I think is hilarious, because this isn't a chart that I'm going to stitch. So this is a loaner from Traditional Stitches. because they thought it was hilarious, and they just wanted to have a picture of me me with a cross-stitch chart that had chickens on it. So I am always happy to bring some laughter and cheer to anybody's life, and so if this is gonna make them all laugh, so I'm more than happy to do that. So they have loaned me the chart. I will be returning it to the store, which is why it's still in its plastic wraps, so I can make sure that it is pristine. This is going back to the shop. But if you are a person who really loves chickens and you haven't seen this, as far, I think this was maybe a Needlework Expo chart. I don't recall because I haven't tended to focus on chickens. But if this is your jam, I am going to put a link to this chart in the notes below because Traditional Stitches has them right now. They have some in stock, and if this is your cup of tea, I know where you can get this. So there you go. And for those of you who work at Traditional Stitches, here's your moment. Judy with a chicken chart, just as you asked for. So I hope I've made your weekend. Or whenever it is that they get to see that. I need to move that into the other chair because that's not staying here. All right, with that, let's get into some stitching. So what have I been stitching this week? Well, we're going to start off with my Lent project. So for my Lent project, so I'm spending anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes a day during the season of Lent working on this pattern by Thea Gouverneur, which is called Jerusalem. And so I started this piece in the center, so I'm working on this building right here, which is called the Church of All Nations. You'd think I'd be able to identify which one it is because this is the most gigantic scroll rods that I've got sitting here. So how did I do this week? Well, it's coming along. And again, one of the things that I find really interesting about this process is saying, so I'm not spending multiple hours on the weekend. I am not spending multiple hours during, on any given day working on this particular pattern. I'm keeping within I'm trying to be really good about keeping within that 30 to 60 minute window. But so Lent started, I think, February 16th or 17th. So we are more than halfway through Lent, probably close to about 75% now. Easter Sunday is April the 4th, so 2 weeks from today. But this does show the progress that I have made, over the course of the past, however many days it is. I should be able to do that math in my head. Probably about 22-ish days. So I'm happy with my progress. I'm starting to feel like I should focus on some of the fiddly bits down here and actually just, get some of this stuff filled in. Because, at the beginning I was only working down here, and then I think for the second week I was generally focused on some stuff up here, and then on week number 3 I was alternating between, trying to pick something up here and do something down here. I think this week I may try to focus on trying to get some of these columns completed in here. But check back next week. I can't guarantee you anything. I am prone to thinking A is going to work and I decide to do B or C or F or Q. So that is my Lent piece. Let's talk the never-ending Nativity, but wait for it. I get to show another chart. So for the last number of weeks, I've been showing the bottom part of the center panel for the Marbeck Nativity, which was called the Holy Family, but I completed Mary. And so I have moved the scroll rods back up to the top. So we are back onto this part. So this is the top of the center panel called the Bethlehem Star. So what I've managed to accomplish this week is, okay, and I'm doing this because of course the sun is shifting on me. So I know it's been a long time since you've seen this piece, so I'll tell you where. So I have filled in this chunk here, and I have filled in this chunk here. So what my plan is for this week is I need to do a little more outlining down here because there's a huge chunk here that is the same color. So when I hold it up like this, so the angels are really essentially mirrored of each other, just in different colors. And so this light color here that you see in the pink, which is this big chunk over here, is replicated over here in this aqua angel. So, and I did find it, you know, when I came to do this chunk, it was really great because all of this was outlined and all I really had to do, I really like, it's always nice when you're doing some stitching periodically. So compared to Jerusalem, which is finicky and you have to pay attention to exactly where you're putting this, where exactly you're stitching and following, not to mention the crazy, horrendous symbols they use in that thing. And next week, if I'm smart, I will show you some examples of why I don't really like their symbols. You know, it was really nice to come over here and just go, it's a fill-in exercise. And all I had to do was fill in. So this week I need to do some of this outlining here on this side, and then it'll give me a really great another chunk that's ready for me to fill in. So I actually had somebody ask me this week if I thought that I was going to have finished this by Easter, and the answer is no. So Easter is 2 weeks away. I don't think I'm going to have this completed by Easter. And Charlotte, you left a comment last week about beads, question mark, question mark. Mine didn't have beads. So I made the comment last week that even though Mary was completed, that bottom chart was not complete because I had not put the beads in. And similarly on this chart, this top chart, this will not be complete until I put the beads in. And I will say the beads are not as charted. So I'm going to haul the pattern back out. So again, so there are all these sort of like random spots here in the pattern on both sides, which is both here as well as down, extends down into the part with the Holy Family. So when I inherited the other panels from this, so again, so I inherited a couple of panels of this that had already been started. So really I am just completing something that somebody else started. So I'm following what they have done. And I think, so the model for the Marbeck Nativity was stitched on 18 count Aida. The part that I inherited was 36 count linen. And I think when you're taking the Krynic and you are stitching these, I think you can see the Krynic as you're trying to drag, you know, drag this out, because there's no way. So each of these is done with 2 strands of Krynic blending filament. So doing a pin stitch is just going to be horrendous. And I think if you're trying to, you know, carry your thread behind the linen, that you can see it through, because the 36 count linen is quite see-through. So, you know, even when I hold it up like this, right, you can see a little, you can even see a little bit of the pattern of my shirt. Okay, it's weird with the light the way that it is, which is why generally when I show this, I'm usually holding up something behind it so that you can actually see what it looks like. So it is very fine, and so I agree with the original decision to, instead of using the Krynic blending filament, to do those stitches, which is as called for according to the chart. That the person who started it made the decision to do those with Mill Hill beads. And so I'm going to continue that on this part. I think they look fantastic. And again, on this, you can just use, you know, a DMC thread or invisible thread. But again, since I'm doing what someone else started, she used DMC thread that coordinated with the color of the linen, which is what I will do to attach the beads on my part. So the beads are, she's already done the beads on the panel with the shepherds and the panel with the wise men. And so it's really just the center part. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting. So I have no idea if you can hear this, but the kids next door are outside playing. So I can hear them. They're having a great time, and I think that's fantastic. But if you hear some random, and it may occasionally sound like screaming, but they're out there having a really good time. So if you just hear children running amok or weird noises going on, it's the kids next door who are playing outside. I just had them all going, oops, and they've come out to play, but I'm going to let them play. But one of these, as soon as I'm done this video, I'm going to have to stand up and see what they're playing, because they're having a grand old time over there, let me tell you. All right. And so the third thing that I have worked on this week is my March focus piece, although I feel like this week I wasn't really focused on it, because anyway, whatever. Still progress. So this is my big toe, because I've designated this my big toe March. So for the month of March, this is a new start for me. This is called the Work of Christmas. And again, because it's idiosyncratic to me, on pieces like this, I have to start in the center, so it's exactly centered on the piece of fabric that I have for it. Not everybody has to do that. Start where you want, make yourself happy. That's what makes me happy. That's what I did. So I started in the center, so I'm essentially working on the bottom half here. I can't wait to watch this back. Okay, thumps, there's a ball involved. Anywho. Now, the funny thing is, if I end up watching this back and you can't hear any of it, because I can hear it very, very clearly on my side. But again, they're having a great time. Okay, so where did I get to on this one? So last week, what did I have left to do? I had to finish off the words over here, so I can't even read it correctly. So I had to do to bring peace and to make music. So I got the words completed. I finished the pots on this side so that they match those ones. I came down here and did so I think it's really interesting when I do this that however I'm allocating my time, I always get to do the outside of the thing and really one side of the center. So I was hoping I was actually going to make more progress on this week than I did. But again, that's life. There is stitching progress, and so I think that's great too. So if you're new to my channel, the other thing about this is a piece that I will only be working on for the month of March. I have made a 2021 stitching plan. So I have a focus piece every month, which it may hard to tell. March is a little bit of a weird month because I've got Lent and the focus piece and the never-ending Nativity. But once that never-ending Nativity goes away, things will change. Lent will be over. The never-ending Nativity will go on, like it'll be like a whole new channel. Anyway, so that's where I've gotten to. Again, I'm a little bit sad because right now, based on the light, I don't think that you can tell that there's any difference in color between these two things. So this is Weeks Dye Works Peacoat, and this is Weeks Dye Works Chesapeake, which is really quite a dark peacocky teal color as opposed to a really dark navy, which is what the words are. But in real life, you can see it, but I'm saying based on what I can tell from what I can see in the camera, you can't tell that that's a different color at all, but I promise you that it is. And again, it's funny, I had a friend who was like, until you held it up, I was like, oh my goodness, that piece is ginormous. For some reason, I thought that was the whole thing, not that you... So this is only half, including this part that I've scrolled up. This is only half, so there's another half. So yeah, this is going to turn into a big piece. And I've had a couple of friends said, really, you should be stitching that over one. And I'm not stitching it over one because I don't really enjoy stitching over one. So stitching, your hobby, there is no cross-stitch police. Do what makes you happy. So I'm doing what makes me happy. So that is my stitching that I have accomplished this week. Let's talk about some haul. So I had a little bit of a chuckle this week because I went to my, okay, so I opened the front door, stepped out onto my porch and opened the mailbox and looked in and said, there's an envelope in here, where I was like, okay, so this has something to do with something that I ordered. And I honestly, I had no idea what it was. You gotta love that when you've lost track. But as soon as I opened it, I went, oh, I remember ordering these. So again, these are items, and it's helpful to me because it does not hurt my Stitch from Stash budget. So these were items that I ordered last year, paid for last year, and they have only just arrived this week. Again, totally fine. These don't have anything to do with charts that I'm currently working on. And quite frankly, I don't know what year I'm going to start. So I need to backtrack a little bit. So this is a really long story. There's been a lot of discussion in the Facebook groups that I'm a part of about what's happening with Swarovski. So as far as I know from my own research, yes, Swarovski, there's been some kind of a shakeup, whether it's they got bought out by somebody else or their management changes or something's going on with Swarovski. And they have made some comments about discontinuing some of their products. I think they're largely closing a lot of their retail stores. They're planning on discontinuing some products. I don't know exactly what that means. You know, haven't been following it closely, but there's been a lot of discussion in some of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of talking about what the impact is of the changes with what's happening with Swarovski. And so one of the things that people were getting worked up about was the fact that Chatelaine Designs, a lot of Martina's patterns in that line require a lot of Swarovski products. Swarovski bicones, Swarovski crystals, Swarovski this, that, and something else. And so I had a moment towards the end of last year where I was like, we don't really know what's going on. We don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe I should just buy those components that I don't already have in my stash. So full confession, I have quite a few charts of Martina's from Chatelaine Designs. I have done one. We'll talk about that at some other point in time. I could probably devote an entire episode just to Chatelaine Designs. I have done one. I've framed it if you want to see a little bit of it. If you look closely at my picture that I have on this channel, it's actually just over my shoulder in the picture. So I have done the Egyptian mandala, and it's amazing. It looks fantastic. Her designs are amazing, amazing, amazing. And so I have quite a few of them. And so I went through my stash, particularly in the month of November, because so the place where I buy my beads for Martina's Designs is from European Cross Stitch. I will link them below. In the Facebook group, there's, you know, everybody has suggestions as where you can go and you can get these. For me, I personally choose to buy them from European Cross Stitch because she worked a lot with Martina when Martina was still alive. If she had any questions about products that she couldn't receive anymore or whatever, they could have those discussions. So I feel like she knows Martina's designs really, really well. She knew Martina. They had conversations. And so with whatever's going on, as far as I'm concerned, she would best be able to handle whatever's coming. European Cross Stitch generally once a year has a sale. I think it's a 10% off sale, generally around Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And so when their sale came up in the end and all this discussion was going on about, you know, things with Swarovski and Swarovski discontinuing things, I went through my stash of charts and looked at what I did not have the beads for at this point in time that I was concerned enough about. And don't get me wrong, I think I have more Chatelaine charts than I will probably finish in my lifetime. So I really kind of went, and I already have several, okay, more than several, already kitted up, ready to go. But I still went through and went Swarovski's changing, and I don't know what that means. So I went through the patterns and said, what are the ones that I felt strongly enough about that I needed to go get the products while they were still available. And so I ordered them on the sale, paid for them on the sale, and they have arrived now. And so what did I end up getting? So these are the beads for the Chinese garden. And I will say, they, if you ever buy a full kit from them, it comes beautifully in ribbons and ties and bows, and it's just a beautiful product. But for these, all I did was order the bead packs for these particular charts. I didn't fully kit them up. I just bought the charts. So this is for the Chinese garden. You can't really tell from there. So there's all the beads, and this is, so these ones over here, like there's multiple things in there. So there's, I don't know, cubes and bicones and anyway, all sorts of products in there. But so that's what the bead pack for that one looks like. There's some, I was like, sorry, I'm looking at this going, wow, there really are some really interesting things in there. Interesting. Anyway, not that this is on my stitching plan anytime soon. So I got that one. I also got the one for, so this is for her Paris mandala. And I have bought the chart that has Paris with, they've got one that I think has all the sides are the same, and I got the version where the buildings on the 4 different sides are different. And so this is the bead pack for that one. And then the colors that I love the best. And again, I don't know that I necessarily would have gotten this chart, except that I was watching somebody in the Chatelaine Facebook group, which I will also link below. She started working on this, and hers looks like, the pictures never do them justice until you see somebody's picture of them stitching these things and what it looks like. And even then, you know, between a camera, it still doesn't necessarily do it justice. But she was stitching on hers, and I went, holy smokes, like that is, looks just amazing. So I ended up getting the chart. Wasn't planning on kitting up until I'd made a decent progress on the ones I already had in my stash, until the Swarovski thing. So this is the bead pack for the Persian Iris Garden. Look at those beautiful things. Ugh. Ugh, it'll be lovely if I ever get to it. So again, so Persian Iris is a ways down on the list of the ones that I want to accomplish. But again, like this woman who posted in the group, hers, like, it just floored me how amazing hers looked like. And then I bought the charts. So then when I was looking through the stash of the charts, this was one where I was actually, again, you know, because all of these are Swarovski products. So hence that was one where I was concerned enough that I went, you should probably get the, you know, so these beads are delicas, and those aren't as far as I know, those aren't necessarily being impacted, but it's the Swarovski crystals and bicones and cubes and all that kinds of stuff. So I got that, and I opened up and went, oh my goodness, look at this. Oh, anyway, I've got other Chatelaine designs to stitch before we get to that. So those are my Stashquisitions for this week. So my Stitch from Stash report is somewhat successful. So I have successfully not bought anything this week. I have unsuccessfully not completed anything. So based on where I'm at right now, my expectation is that I am going to be ending the month of March in the hole. I think my balance for the month of March is going to be a negative number. In April, surely I can finish that top part of the center panel over the course of April. So maybe by the end of April, I will be back in the black. Again, Stitch from Stash. I've personally chosen to be a part of this group. What happens if you fail at your Stitch from Stash budget? Well, nothing. I am doing it as a personal challenge to myself to keep within budget. So you can set a budget for yourself. The maximum number is $25 US a month. And then, you know, so you take against that budget, you negate things that your purchases, but you also get credits for patterns that you have finished. So those completions will add to your spending budget. Now, on a separate topic, for 2022, I'm still working on my 2022 plan, and I am really getting to that point where it's like I really need to concretely figure out what I'm doing in the first quarter of 2022, because if I need to get anything for it, I may need, again, from a fabric perspective, I may need to hurry up and order that, particularly if it's a hand-dyed. But I'm actually really working heavily on my 2022 plans. I know, weird. Welcome. March 21st, I'm working on 2022. Living the dream. Anyway, at least you know I'm not living in the past. All right, and with that, let's move on to the topic. So last week I talked about dyeing for cross stitch because that was where I blew my budget for this month and maybe next month, because a friend tempted me and pulled me down into the rabbit hole, and I bought those beautiful silks that I showed last week. So I thought that I would also show another hand dyer of silk products. And so as you can see from the topic for this week, it's called Let's Talk Silks4U. So I have lots of things to show and I have lots of things to talk about. So let's cover a little of the basics around Silks4U. Okay, and I just realized I am not smart enough. I didn't even bother to get the name of the lady who runs it. Sadly, I don't know the name of the lady who runs it, but I know that her daughter's name is Jamie. Anyway. But the lady who is behind Silks4U is the original owner of Dinky Dyes. So Dinky Dyes, if you have been in this community for a while, Dinky Dye Silks is probably a name that you have heard of before now. And so the lady behind Silks4U was the original owner of Dinky Dyes. She sold Dinky Dyes to its current owner in 2014. And in my head, so this is only in my head, Judy's personal opinion, no facts, no conversations behind it. So in my head, I think what was happening, she was living in the US and then she was moving back to Australia. And I think that's when she, as far as I can tell, don't quote me, this is not necessarily 100% fact, that's when she sold the business. And then she returned to Australia. So Silks4U is also based out of Australia. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about how that impacts things when we get to a little towards the end of this topic. But anyway, so Silks4U, as far as I can tell, the silk base for Silks4U is the same base that is used for Dinky Dyes. And I showed this before. Yeah, I'll show this in a minute again. So one of the things that Dinky Dyes, Silks4U, pay attention to the topic. One of the things that Silks4U does that I really love, only because I successfully won something. So in their Facebook group, every month, now, so they, not surprisingly, so due to COVID, they were having some huge supply chain interruptions, like everybody else in our world. They have a notice on their website now that their supply issue of the base silks for them has seemed to have recovered, and they seem to be in a good place. So their shop seems to be fully loaded. It looks fantastic. I hadn't looked there for quite some time because I'm trying to be responsible for the Stitch from Stash, but I got on there today and went, oh my goodness, look at all of those pretties. Stop looking, because there's only about 5 or 6 more things on there that I want to buy, and I'm not buying them. Anyway, but one of the great things that they do, so this is in their Facebook group. So if you're not part of Facebook, I'm sorry. I will put a link to the Facebook group below. So every month, now that they have their supply chain fixed, they're back to, they were creating a new color every month. And for the first week of that month, it's on sale in the shop for 20% off. That color, in whatever form that you buy it in, the new color of the month is 20% off for the first week of the week that it is being released. In the Facebook group, they will post in advance, they will show in advance what the new color is, what it looks like. I always love those posts. And you can enter to win a hank. A hank, not a skein, a hank of silk from Silks4U. It's amazing. So I showed this in a Flosstube video before, so I'm showing it again because it was just, I'm still going, I won! I won one! I don't think I've actually entered since because I felt so guilty that I was like, I had actually successfully won a really lovely one that I should really sit down and be quiet and let somebody else win the hank. So this is, so the other thing you need to know about Silks4U, they have no names for their silk colors. So all of the really lovely names that you see in other companies for any of their products, that doesn't happen in Silks4U. So the silk that I won has the glorious name PR156. Now, I will put these color numbers in the notes below in case you're going, I can't remember whatever, because you can always go onto their website and you can look up the colors. So this is the one that I showed before. This is the silk I won. So this is PR. Look at that. Peacock teal. Oh, lovely. Now, lovely, lovely. It's a little, again, it's just glorious. Sorry. So this is exactly why I entered to win this particular hank, because I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. So sort of that royal blue, peacock teal, you know, purple, magenta. Isn't that just a ball of lusciousness? Anyway, so I won this. I won this. Now, when you enter in the Facebook group, you do have to read the instructions, because there are a number of things that you have to do to be properly entered to win the hank for that month. But it's a hank. It's a hank of silk. Sorry, so I have to put this back in its thing because I have not been smart enough to put a tag actually attached to it so that I know what it is. I should probably do that. But just so you know, so a hank of silk from Silks4U is US $30, and a hank of silk for them is approximately 29-30 skeins, 29/30 skeins equivalent of DMC. It's a huge amount of floss. It is a 6-stranded silk. It's a huge amount of silk. It's a huge amount of silk. And I won one. Isn't it lovely? Anyway, isn't it lovely? I know. It's ridiculous. Okay. So, the other thing that happens in the Facebook group is they regularly run these contests that you can enter, and you can win prizes, and what the prizes changes all the time. So they were actually running one a little while ago where they actually, so they showed a picture of like a bajillion bundles of, you know, skeins of silk, and it was a guess how many skeins of silk are in this picture. And the person who guessed closest won one of their bits bags. So I actually have, so what is a bits bag? So a bits bag is this. So normally I would not say that I am the type of person who would buy a bits bag, because I generally don't like not knowing what I'm getting. So clearly I would say when I was placing an order with them, they probably were running some kind of special that if you bought X, you know, you got a free bits bag. That's how I think this happened. So I do have a bits bag. So a bits bag is $20. Yeah, I was gonna say, let me just check. Yeah, so it's $20 US for this. You get 10 skeins of silk. These skeins are 8-meter skeins. Now, so there are colors in here that you would sort of go, Judy, those are not really your colors. Like this is generally not a Judy color. This is not exactly a Judy color. Am I doing anything with this bits bag other than holding on to it? Because you just never know in the randomness of life where these may come into play. Some of these I really love. I haven't done anything with them yet, which is great because I have a bits bag to show you. So that's the concept of a bits bag. You can order a bits bag. You have no idea what colors you're going to get. They could even be one-off colors where they were trying to create a new color and it didn't quite work out the way they wanted it to be, and so they're scanning them off into these things and putting them in the bits bag. So for those of you who just like to try random things and substitute randomly with all sorts of things, bits bags are a great way to go. Okay. They also have these things called color sets. So I have some of these because I love this concept. So a color set, so this is $30 US, and they do have some sets that are 4 skeins of silk, and they have some sets that are 5 skeins of silk. So here's what they look like. So this is, and so just so you know, there we go, let's get it the right way. So this is, so in my head, this is Color Match 101. Anyway, so this is 5 skeins, and so what you get is you get a variegated floss, and then you get a solid in each of the colors that makes up this variegated. Isn't that lovely? Okay, I know. So I really liked my purchases when I bought them. Really brought me enjoyment. Even now, I love even just looking at this going. Now, clearly I haven't decided exactly how I'm putting this into practice or when I'm going to be stitching with this, but I love these. And so that's one of the color match sets that I have. I also have this color match set. So this is Color Match 116. And again, sorry, they're in their plastic bags. So that is the variegated. And here are the 4 colors that are part of that variegated. Love that one too. I know, it's bad. Okay, this will come as a gigantic shock to you, I'm sure. I really love some of the things that I have in my stash. Okay, so that's the color match sets. So they also have in the shops color sets, and the number of colors that go in each of these sets is dependent. They're not always the same. So depending on what color you're looking for, but they've got like color set blue, brown, teal, purple, anyway, etc. So what it does, but it will show you in the picture how many you're getting and the colors that will be coming with that. So I don't have one of those. I did look at them and go like, ooh, look at, and I went, stop it, stop it. Anywho, they also have these seasonal sets. Those look really great too. So the seasonal sets are $40. I don't remember how many skeins are in them, but again, you can go onto the website, look at them. But so there's a spring set, there's a summer set, there's a fall set, and there's a winter set. You'll never guess which one I'm drawn to most. But anyway, they're lovely too. I don't have those either, but I said no. I'm not placing an order. You can also get any of these colors in just a regular one, like, so you don't have to buy a set. You can get just one. You can get, you can buy these individually as well. And so A single skein of silk is $6 US, and that gets you 15 meters of 6-stranded silk. Now, they also have a deal for those of you, or if there's, again, this is what I did when my friend and I, discovered dyeing for cross stitch. We got all excited. We are combining. So if you're leaning towards this, and if you have friends that are excited about this type of things, you might want to combine. So one of the things, so if you're buying single regular skeins, they do have a deal that if you buy 10, you get 2 free. So for the price of 10, so for your $30, no, that's not right, $60. So for $60, instead of getting 10 skeins, you're going to get 12. All you have to do is, when you buy the 10, is just put in the notes of your order the color numbers of the 2 other skeins you would like. So in case you're, in case you like it so much you're going to town, don't forget your deals. And then of course we always have the hanks. So I have purchased a couple of other hanks. I know, because I'm ridiculous. And there's somewhat themes going on here. So even though this looks a little bit like the other one, it actually in real life is not the same. So this is PR073. So this is, instead of being teal, this is more green. This is not so, this is still towards the purple, but this is not so magenta. This is more towards a very reddy pink. Yeah, it's coming across as more pink on there than it is in real life. This is not a royal blue. This is a much lighter, this is a mid-tone blue. Actually, so if I were smart, I would hold the 2 up beside each other and you could see the difference. I just have to make sure they go back into the proper bags. So this is PR156 and this is PR073. So you can see, like, there's clearly color versions that I am drawn to, but these are not the same. So yes, I have to, hang on, these have to go back into their things because I really need to smarten up and actually attach tags to them. So again, this was PR73. Now, you don't have to commit to a full hank either. So you can also buy a partial hank. When I was on the website today, again, usually because as I said, I usually try to go on and check these things out before I come on and record these videos. They didn't have any partials, but Silks4U is also really great, that if there's anything on there that you're looking for that you can't find, just email them. Just email them. So you'll laugh again. So this is, yeah, I have colors that I'm drawn to. So this is PR145 again. This actually has some gray in it. So the purple in this skein is more gray, but again, those blues, peacock teals, there's more gray. So I would say overall this is a more gray undertoned skein than the other ones. So this is not a full hank. This is a half hank. So let's say this is equivalent to, 14 or 15 skeins of DMC. Really lovely for some of those monochromatic designs that I'm drawn to. Yeah, I'm not done yet. Hence the Stitch from Stash. Okay, look at this lovely one. I know it's sad. I know I say that about every one that I'm holding up. So this is PR103. So This is aquas. This is, again, because cameras change the colors. So I would say this is more, certainly on this end, like it's more periwinkle in tone with some lovely shades of aqua. Isn't it lovely? They have some really, really lovely colors on there. So they have variegateds and they have solids. Hence, like, again, as you saw in those color match sets. And this is PR0094. I know. So they start to look repetitive, but believe it or not, when you put them together in real life, they look actually quite a bit different. I love my stitch from stash, stitch from stash, stitch from stash. Actually, just holding this up, it's making me think of something that I may need to put into my 2022 stitching plan. So those are my Silks4U silks. They're really quite lovely. Again, as far as I can tell, the base for the Silks4U silks is the same base that was used for Dinky Dyes. They just feel luscious. And for Judy L, who had never stitched with silks, she's going, I think I should start, like, congratulations on your really gigantic skeins. I think, given that I haven't stitched with silk, I should start with something smaller. My answer is yes. Yes. Start with something smaller, because there are people who do not enjoy working with silk. Hey, everybody has their thing, and that's fine. You know, it's the same thing. When I was talking about Krynic towards the end of last year, some people are fine working with Krynic. Some people can't stand it. Some, like me, I will do it because I like the effect, and I will moan, whine, and complain the entire time that I'm doing it, but I will do it anyway. But yes, before you make a commitment to, you know, a hank of anything, or even half a hank, yes, dip your toe in the water. And quite frankly, Judy L, I don't know where you live, so it might be easier. You could do things like you could buy something. You could get a small ink circles chart, because a lot of those they're set up to do any kind of variegated thread. So if you did a small ink circles chart, there's tons of places on Etsy to get them, but you just need to be really, really careful about checking your stitch count size, as to how many skeins you might need depending on the size of your pattern. But if you wanted to start with something that you didn't have to go, again, because I don't know where you live, so I don't know where you're shipping to, and so shipping is the thing that's changing my mind. If you can get something that's from an LNS, or a shop that will ship to you within your own country, so that you don't have to cross an international border for the shipping costs. As soon as you cross the border, your shipping costs go up. You know, so you could try Soie d'Alger. You could do needlepoint ink silks. You could buy a Dinky Dyes. Again, if you're contemplating some of these variegateds, you know, get a skein of Dinky Dyes that appeals to you and do something with that, because again, then you're only buying one. And then you will discover whether you're going to go down the silk rabbit hole or not, and look at, you know, other hand dyers of silks, you know, all sorts of things. I will say, so the other thing, because I've got notes here, the other thing that Silks4U will do is they will do a custom dye for you. So I have a plan, because I have no shortage of a bajillion things to do. So Long Dog Samplers, Death by Cross Stitch. I'm not even talking about the free pandemic that came out last year, because I got that one too. But anyway, Death by Cross Stitch, I have a concept in my head of what I would like that to look like, which I would, if I ever get to that point where I really am going to start by Death by Cross Stitch, I will be reaching out to Silks4U. Hopefully they'll still be doing this at that point in time, because there is a custom over-dyed that there's a custom over-dyed silk that I'm going to want them to do for Death by Cross Stitch, And then I'm going to want them to, some of the colors that go into that, I'm going to want as solids. So that I have this whole plan where it's going to be a combination of this variegated plus solids from that variegated. And so for me, given the size of Death by Cross Stitch and what I'm wanting to do, and the fact that the concept of what I want currently does not exist in the market, to my knowledge, I have not seen a silk right now that is actually the version that I have in my head. But Silks4U does custom, and so that's when I'm thinking about doing Death by Cross Stitch, my plan is I will be reaching out to Silks4U saying, this is what I want for my custom overdyed, plus from those colors that are part of that overdyed, the solids that match it, and then send me that bundle, and that's going to be my Death by Cross Stitch. It actually gets me excited even just thinking about it, where I'm just like, but no, it's not in my plan for 2021. I don't even think it's in my plan for 2022. So I need to rein myself in. It only factors in if I think I want to start it, because I'm going to have to figure how that works with Stitch from Stash. Anyway, all right. So that's a lot of what Silks4U do. They have a lot of silks on there, but that is not the only thing they do. They've actually started to do some hand-dyed fabrics. So I have not purchased their fabrics, but again, you can go onto their website and you can look at their hand-dyed fabrics on there. As far as I can tell, they're only putting up the hand-dyed fabrics that they have previously, colorways that they have previously dyed or that are currently available. Wasn't exactly sure how that worked out. Again, haven't bought the fabric, but they are doing fabric dyeing. They also do a wide variety of other things. So they've got thread winders, needle minders, mother of pearl buttons, shell buttons, scissor fobs. So they've got a whole, I would call it accessories section to the product offerings that they have there. So you can look at those too. So I have actually, when I bought some of these other ones, they had a needle minder that actually had a slot for you to put your scissors through. So that it was like, so you can, the top part was where you put your needles, but they actually had a spot where you could put your scissors through it, and it would all keep it, within the magnet. So I actually got one of those for a friend of mine as a gift. So I have purchased those. I think I've got a couple of needle minders from them, which would have come with those orders. So I have purchased those from them. As well, since we were talking about deals, the other thing, if you are a silk junkie and you're planning on going to town, just make sure you read carefully on your hanks if you're buying hanks. So we've talked about the skeins, buy 10, get 2 free. If you're buying the hanks, buy 5, get 1 free. So they certainly have some great deals. The fact that they are giving away a hank of silk every month now that their supply chain issues have been resolved. Again, so I was really good about entering to win, and I actually did win one. I have a free hank of silk. It was really exciting. Again, just make sure that you carefully read the instructions about how to enter. And again, as part of that Facebook group, they run stuff, I would say, quite regularly. Again, now that the supply chain issue has been largely fixed, they're back up and running. The shop is full. The page that I'm going to link in the notes below, you have an option whether you're international, aka not in Australia, or whether you're in Australia. Now, I don't think I've even gone into the Australian site, because I think the whole point of that is it's set up for their taxes and shipping, I think, is why there's a separate Australian one. I'm clearly not in Australia and not shipping to Australia, so I go to that page and I go into the international site. But again, if you have any questions about any of their products, all you have to do is reach out to them. They've got their email address on there. It's really lovely stuff. It's really lovely stuff. Anyway. But since we did Dying for Cross Stitch last week, I thought we would do silks again this week. So that is Silks4U. That's the Silks4U that I have in my stash. And even though some of them may look really repetitive in real life, they actually look quite a bit different. So again, sorry for cameras and things and all that kind of stuff. And with that, we've actually just crossed the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to wrap this up. Again, I hope everybody is staying safe and staying healthy, and I hope that you're all making some time to stitch. Yeah, now that I have set myself a plan for 2021, I'm actually, don't get me wrong, you hear me say this multiple weeks, is like, there's always weeks where I go like, I didn't get as much stitching in as I was hoping to get done. But I'm also a big proponent of every stitch that you get accomplished is one stitch closer to a finish than you had before. And with that, I hope you have a great week. Make sure you get some stitches in, stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, guys.